All right, thank you, Myra. Was that insightful? Yes, it was insightful. Will it help brands? Yes, it will help brands. I like the one you said, brands that will grow, willing to understand. Think yourself and the people should put on your camera for the question and answer session. Brands that will grow will understand Ghanaian, will adapt to them, as well as design their business to meet their reality. And that is the truth. If you don't get this done, then you're gonna be in deep trouble. And also, when you're doing the personnel, I was telling myself, where do I fall in among these three personnel? See, because it's laughing. I have this trait of Gen Z, I was telling myself, probably I might fall in there, but I actually have this trait of the cautious optimist. So I wasn't so sure I fall in, but it will be the Gen Z part that I think I'm gonna go for. But thank you so much, Myra. Um, all right. The first question goes to you, Myra. And somebody was looking at the persona when we were talking about the persona, the cautious optimistic, the brand loyalist, as well as the smart spender. Person was saying, do you have the average monthly income for those personas? You are muted.
All right, thank you. So I can get the data. We try to amalgamate the data so that we're trying to explain how they behave more, but we can definitely get the monthly average
Okay.
expenditure or spending. It will definitely differ from urban and then also differ from rural. So we can get some of that data. I'm happy for my contact to be shared. I can get some of that data
No,
to
that's
to
fine.
yeah.
Ultimately, I think that answer your question. The monthly income data is actually there for the taking if you want. Now, to Ibukun, I was saying for yourself and Maya, I was just taking a lot of notes. And on my sheet, I actually have like 10 questions already. So I'm just going to split it in equal proportion. So Ibukun, you spoke around brands being physically available. Now,
Mm,
it's an interesting terrain in in Africa. Ghana
mm,
not different.
mm.
So how do you think that brands can be physically available for consumer to pick?
Okay, thanks, Paul. In my deck, I mentioned that it is about depth and not about the breadth. So it is not that you are just available in the outlet. Are you available in the right format that they want? And are you available in the right price tier? So that is why it's not really like I can see you. You can be available, but are you available for me to pick up at the price that I want? And are you available in the format? Do I want sachet? I like your brand, I like your products, but I cannot afford the jar. But I can afford the sachet if it's available, right? So it's all about the right format and the right price tier. And that's why I talked about making sure that you're mapping your portfolio to the different outlets, making sure that consumers can actually pick you up.
All right.
So you are
Thank
giving them the right pricing, you're giving them the right format.
All right, thanks. So I mean, if I get it right, you could be there and you probably will not be picked because you're not in the right SKU and things like that.
Yeah.
All right, I have a question. I'm not seeing this coming. If consumers often research online but buy offline, how can brands who are present online but have no physical presence convert these kinds of consumers? Who researches online but buy offline to make them buy online? All right, I'll tell you what, Mike, I think that's your question anyway. Um, and
Right.
yes- and yesterday in the Nigerian stuff, one of the presenters said, you know what, people will check everything online. They will carry their two legs and go offline, look at the product, test it, and say, oh, it is real before they buy. Now the question is this: if I research online but buy offline, how can brands who don't have physical stores like physical presence in malls and things like that convert this kind of consumers who has this tendency at the moment?
Okay, so maybe I'll take that first and then you can add in. So it's interesting. I do it too. I'm not Gen Z, but I still do it. And I think a lot of times it's based on trust. So brands that don't have a physical presence have to have excellent customer service. And remember that offline is not just about physical location, it's about being able to speak to a Myra, being able to hear, like assure the person, being able to explain. Because again, remember that as much as the internet is growing, rapidly, we are still quite new in terms of how we interact. We are still very basic, if I can use that word, in terms of how we approach the use of internet. So, we still believe a lot of what we see, and we are still very much afraid of being scammed, losing our money, etc. So I think for the brands, customer service, being present in other ways is very important. And the simplest way would be, when we say buy offline, we're talking about, the channel that they're finding the product, like a TikTok or WhatsApp, they'll still send you a DM. They are not sending you Momo straight away. They'll still send you a DM. They're still calling you on the phone. They're still saying, I'm coming to your shop. I do it as well. I'm sending my dispatch to you because I want to make sure that, my dispatch gets them, collects the product. I don't want to send you payments and then you've turned off your phone. So I think it's just being able to offer these extra things in terms of customer service, being able to offer, delivery, payment on delivery is a big one. So there are different ways that you can, do that. If you're a service business, you can say, look, I will deliver maybe a percentage, pay me a percentage, I'll deliver, and then you pay me the other. So yes, as a brand, it's a give and take. You lose a bit because you also have to trust that the consumer will keep their end of the bargain. So yeah, great.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean,
And
but
I think in addition to that,
go on.
fantastic response. I feel that in addition to that, there are some kind of products that you can make it easier for people to actually buy online. So after all the excellent customer service, you could also put enough information. So if it's a clothing brand, your sizing is there. Very clear sizing. Not that it will be what I ordered versus what is delivered. The sizing is there. You could use AI. You can leverage AI. Use AI to allow them to try their products on. There's some website you want to buy makeup, and you're allowed to actually try it on your skin. All you need to do is take a picture. So leverage AI. The world is changing. Tech is going to make things easier. So brands can also explore that.
All right, if we go for me, that is not Gen Z, so I actually disown the Gen Z right now. How do I leverage AI in the era of deepfake?
Mm.
I'm not Gen Z again. I've changed my mind right now. But I mean, it's something we can think of because it just came on the spot. But now, going back to your presentation, Ibukun, you're talking about social media.
Mm.
And social media is an interesting bit for Gen Zs like us. Yeah, I'm now back to the Gen Z stuff.
Mm.
You ask yourself, as a brand, how do I cut through the clutter of social media? So this stuff we they call is it doom scrolling. I mean, people just keep on scrolling and you have seen a lot of different stuff in. But as a brand, how do I cut through the clutter in social media and make an impression?
Thank you, Paul. And I think Mira actually talked about it. It has to be relatable. Are you relatable? Are you trying to speak to them? You have to connect to their lived consumer experiences. So it's not something that is far-fetched. It has to be something that when they see, it resonates with them. So you have to be relatable. Whatever ad you're putting there, yes, it's funny. It has to be relatable. So I'm talking about detergent. I'm using what would normally happen when I'm using detergent. I'm talking about beer, you know, and it's going to be what you would normally happen with friends. You're sitting, it has to be relatable. So it has to connect. That's the first thing. Connection has to be there. That's one way you can cut through clutter. Another thing is, of course, I've talked about the fact that it's tied to the core message. So you're not just being funny for being funny's sake. You're being funny to build your brand equity. You're not just being funny for people to know your brand. You're being funny so that they can know your brand and they can love your brand. So it has to still be tied to the core message. And of course, it's not about you see some movies. I watch some movies, I'm like, it's a very lazy production or very low budget thinking. And consumers see these things, right? So as much as possible, it has to be well executed. You don't want to spend more. You're trying to save on cost because now you're not on TV. But even at that, let it be quality production. See that you've actually put in a lot of thinking time in it. Consumers see these things. Yes, be funny, be good, Excellence has to speak through, and of course, it still has to be tied to the core messaging and be relatable. It has to connect with me. As a consumer, if it doesn't connect, I'm going to scroll. What you talked about scrolling, I'll most likely just scroll. Like, either sometimes you see some ad in by the first 1 or 2 seconds, third seconds, you've already decided, am I watching this or I'm moving? If it's not connected, I'm most likely going to scroll. But if it connects, you stay. And the good thing about algorithm is that immediately you see search, it keeps coming. It keeps coming and just makes it easier for consumers to see you, and you become more memorable.
Thanks, Ibuko. We Gen Z is actually have low attentive stuff, so he has to catch us from the very first 2, 3 seconds.
Yeah.
Maya, do you have any feedback on that question of how brand can cut through the clutter?
I think Ibuken said everything. I mean, for our organization, we love storytelling. If you think about the things that resonate the most with you, it's a good story. So if someone explains to you, okay, I sell this, I do this, I do that, you hear it, but it's a lot of information. But then, one of the key takeouts I had on the slides, I said emotional trust. So
Yeah.
that emotional trust, because we don't always buy rationally. A lot of times, actually, we don't buy rationally. We buy because I like her. I like how she sounds. I don't like how he sounded. This person was rude to me. Oh, this would be nice. Somebody seeded something. So, using storytelling and trying to speak to the heart of the consumer is one of the key things, not in a manipulative way, but in a way that really connects with them. Because if you think about all the scrolling we are doing, a lot of times we are feeding a narrative. We are bored. We are looking for these. There's the rise of this short reels that like they are like stories. They'll show you part one up until part 52, and a lot of people have spent a lot of time looking for storytelling. It captures us since we are babies. Our parents have told us stories. They pass down folk tale and our history through stories. A lot of what we're doing comes through that. So I think just a little bit that we add on is to be able to create something that would stick. And a lot of the brands, especially the younger side hustlers, they really mastered it. They really mastered that.
Thanks so much. For Africa, what have kept us going for a long time has been storytelling. Because most of our history were not documented. It's what my pop told me, that his grandpa told his pop, that his great grandpa told his great. So storytelling has been something that Africans have excelled in, and I think brands should look into this seriously to cut through the clutter. I think some of them are doing it. The next question goes to you, Myra, and it was clearly said at Myra in the comment section. Our Gen Zs want their products delivered on time once they make payments. What kind of logistics have brand put in place to make that happen? The person even went further to say even Amazon does not deliver in less than 2, 3 hours.
That is true. That is true. So that is a good question. And you are right, Rotimi. Amazon doesn't do 2 to 3 hours, but unfortunately, that's how we've been conditioned now because the market is so competitive and we don't have time. And now that quick turnaround in terms of delivery is actually part of the value that end users have come to expect. So there are a few things. The obvious ones is the rise of the Yangos and the Bolts and the personal delivery. So most brands you meet now, whether they are very sophisticated or whether they are side hustlers, have something in place using third party or their own logistics, and it's become more affordable than ever because of how much demand and supply there is. So I can actually get something from our office and airport, maybe to somebody in Accra, Newtown, for as little as 20 cities or 25 cities on a dispatch. It will cut through traffic. It will cut through Accra traffic. It's fast. It's reliable because you can track where it's going. So really, you're getting fast shipping, free tracking, and a no-name brand, and they even allow you to forward on your order so that the person knows where the thing is coming from. So really, luckily for us, brands like Bolt, Uber, Yango have made it very easy for us to have that. It's not realistic and it's not in every industry. So when you look at maybe where you get personalized items, so maybe let me use fashion as an example. So you're trying to get something very nice and personalized. Most people are willing to wait, but you have to manage their expectations. So you have to tell them that it's going to come in a week, it will come in two, it will come in three. So not everything is like that, but fast moving consumer goods is there. Fashion, food, things like that. We expect very quickly. And then the other thing as well is if you look at Timu or Temu, when we order from China, we are okay for it to take 2 weeks, 1 month, etc. So if you're going to take time, then you have to be so dirt cheap that the person buys, they forget about it, they get on with their life, but it's not for essentials. So I think maybe to clarify, if you're selling essentials, a lot of times Ghanaian consumer is not very patient, and if they don't buy from you, they'll buy from somebody else who will promise them 2 hour turnaround and the person will deliver. So brands can't afford to say that Amazon is not that fast because Ghanaian consumer, we are spoiled and that's what we expect. Hopefully I've been able to touch on a
Yeah,
few.
I think you did, Myra. We Gen Z are actually spoiled. We don't have that patience to actually wait for a lot of stuff. But thanks for that response. That was well delivered. Welcome to you. And it's been an age-long question, and you also touched on it in your presentation right now. It's quality and affordability. And I'll tell you what I mean, Ibukum. When I hear quality, my wallet shiver because quality might just mean that stuff that is quite high. But I mean, in your presentation, we're talking about quality cannot be compromised, baseline attributes. Do you want to just shed more light on that? Because I'm looking at it as in quality versus affordability. How do I manage this
Mm,
as a brand?
mm. Thanks, Paul. So it seems as if their intention, like quality is expected to be priced higher, right? So what I'm trying to say is that for every product, there are just some baseline attributes. So for detergent, it has to clean, right? Right? I don't need it to smell super nice, but I need it to clean. Is it cleaning? Yes, tick. Is it maintaining my clothes? Yes, tick. Now, when there are other additions, like it smells nice, it gives me floral perfume and all of that, those are additions. It's not the baseline. Okay, so I want to take beer. I want to take here. It doesn't have to have refined super refined taste. Is it good enough? How is the taste? How is the aftertaste? How is the texture? How does it, what's the color like? Basic baseline, that is quality. So for every product, there are just some baseline attributes that we expect. So I want to buy Shito, for instance. Oh, is it giving me the right color, the right taste? It doesn't matter if it has chunks of meat or chunks, and I can see all the shrimps. Those are additions. But is the job to be done sorted? Is it giving, is it delivering on that expectation? That's what is defined as quality. Now, how can you balance for quality and affordability? You can, and that's what I talked about. Format. Play the format game. Play within your portfolio. Your portfolio architecture will help you not to compromise on the quality that is expected on your product, right? And that's why I said that it's okay to be superior. It's okay for a brand to be premium. It's just that you are giving me the extra. It is extra that you're giving me. That's what's making you premium. It's not the expectation, it's the extra that is making you to be priced premiumly. So I want beer. Now, if you give me refined taste, I'll say, okay, I can pay extra. I can take you when I want to signal. If you're giving me different variants, okay, I can pay extra, but that's not the baseline. So as I said, quality is about delivering on that baseline where affordability can help you achieve that using different format. Okay, so as even using the Shito example. So I want to produce Shito. Shito is like a staple in every Ghanaian home. And it has to have a particular color. It has to have a particular oil level, it has to have a particular taste. Are you delivering on all of that? When you're delivering on that, that is quality. Now, if you give me shito in jar and you put it in a very nice format and it's packaged and all of that, there's a particular brand that did that. And you give me in sachet, most importantly, are the basics in place? If they're in place, I can go for the sachet and not buy the jar. So that is where format comes to play, and format will now talk about affordability. So by the time I choose the sachet, it means that I just want to have you. You're good, and I just want to have you. When I'm choosing the jar, maybe I want to signal. I'm using it when my family is around. We're having a party and what have you. So most importantly, quality. But you can still be a quality brand and deliver an affordability if you play well with your format and your portfolio.
Thank you, Ibukun. I think that's
I hope
that's my
I've been able
last
to
question.
answer the
That's
question.
my last question to you. But I'll meet you out of this session. The way you describe that brand, that BS, all those stuff, we need to discuss later on so I can know which brand to go for. But thanks for the feedback. My last question to you, Myra, and this is based on your presentation. At a point you were oh no, you're talking about e-commerce growth in Kenya. I mean, that was, you're talking that this is based on probably the high internet penetration. Now I'm sitting down as a brand and I'm listening to you. How do you think brand can tap more into the e-commerce growth in Ghana?
Okay, great. So for especially for brands that are selling physical goods, there are lots of software that are out there. I don't represent any, so we have the Shopify's and all the different ones that are there, and a lot of them come with like a free trial, so you can tap into that if you're ready. And I think it's important that brands do the research to know, how people are purchasing their products online. So the way we would purchase clothes online may not be the same as how we would purchase maybe provisions, etc. But I think the basic what brands can do today is start with social selling. And we actually interestingly having a conversation about this yesterday in the office. So social selling has taken off. Luckily, this is the time when almost all the platforms offer some sort of live features. So you can actually see on TikTok, which happens to be the number one platform for the youth in Ghana. You can see when you go there now, you see people, selling, and it's very basic. You don't have to do anything. You just need to have your products. You just need to, take a shower and look decent, and then just show your wares. And because there's mobile money payments, you can basically seamlessly do your transactions that way. So I think if we were thinking, okay, e-commerce, Western style, very, very sophisticated, that is more difficult. But because we have our social selling, so we have the TikToks and Instagram lives, that's one way. And using some of the free software is another big way that we can do e-commerce in tap into the e-commerce trend in this day and age. I think those are the 2 points that come just top of mind. And of course, there are a lot of professional services, web developers, etc., that can also create a full one. And actually, the next one will be tapping into platforms like Gigi and Jumia. They are also very popular now in Ghana. So again, you shop online, you discover online, you finish offline. So yes, so I think tapping into that is also an excellent way to open your brand up to social commerce, e-commerce, social media. So yeah, great.